Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
You're one of those like annoying choir kids that
I
like is just always singing everywhere. Vow, view, vow, view, vow, view, vow, view, vow to view, vow, 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 vow to view,
Vow to view each other's movies, even though we don't always like them, but it's okay because we love each other and movies too. Hey everyone, welcome to Vow to View, a Doof Media podcast all about marriage and the things we make each other watch. My name is Elyse Daly.
And I'm Scott Daly.
And together, we're the Dailies.
Elyse.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good. So you usually say something after that and then it's like you mock something or you comment about
something?
You either mock or you comment about something that I've just been talking about before we decide to pause and count down and start. Or we like have something, I don't know. And now it was just like nothing. It was just pause.
This is the podcast all about marriage and the things we make each other watch.
It's true. And?
Wait, you already did that. Fuck, we got to do it over.
What?
Fuck. No.
Do what?
We got to do the whole thing over.
No, we don't do the whole thing over.
We got to do the whole thing over.
No, Scott, you just got to move through it. It's called just blazing through the trail. I'm just going to
cut all this shit out. This is the podcast where each and every week we pick a movie and we make each other watch it, and then we come on here and we talk about it, and we talk about why you did this to me, which is the theme of this week in particular. Why did you do this to me?
You know, I did it because I love you, and because I love you, I just make you do things sometimes.
But we decided to talk about adaptations of books this week. I don't remember why we did that, other than I've just been reading a lot, so it felt like a good idea.
Yeah, I think it was because you liked a lot of books, and I was just trying to think about what we could do. And you really wanted to make me watch the movie Adaptations, so I was trying to think of what could fit in the theme for Scott to be able to make me watch this movie, because I do love you, and so sometimes I try and make things work out for you.
So I picked for Elyse the Academy Award-winning film Adaptation. Elyse picked for me
the Razzies winner. I'm just kidding. I don't know if it really won. Probably.
The Twilight Saga, New Moon. But we will get to those movies in a few minutes, because first we have to talk about Roses and Thorns. But
first we should talk about something else. I thought you were going to skip over this.
It's trying to.
Bachelor in Paradise. Because everyone barfs in Bachelor in Paradise. Or evidently this week they take sage and they try and just fling it all over themselves for good juju.
I've got some sage advice for you.
Oh, what?
Don't watch this show. It's fucking terrible.
But that's one dad joke like John told. Way to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. At least I was intelligent enough to know that you made it, as opposed to the Snickers joke.
So, Elyse, it's another week, another episode of Bachelor in Paradise.
It was.
It's 4 hours, which is something I don't think we've told.
4 hours,
I don't think we've told our audience
2 hours Monday and 2 on Tuesday.
Which is something I don't think we've told our audience that doesn't actually watch the show and just tunes in to listen to us talk about it for what is supposed to only be 5 minutes, but always ends up longer. This show, unlike The Bachelor, is 2 nights a week for 2 hours each. Yeah. So it's 4 hours of television. This explains why I've been doing so much reading lately.
I guess it does. So this week, the boys handed out the roses to the girls. Last week, or I forget, they like always do these weird rose ceremonies where it's always off. So I think actually the boys handed them out on Monday night, and then it is a continuation. And so now technically the end of Monday and the beginning of Tuesday, the girls, quote unquote, have the rose power. So, the girls that had come on, there was Jacqueline that came on.
Don't know who that is.
I really like Jacqueline. She's from Ari's season. There was Jubilee.
Don't know who that is.
There was Caroline.
Don't know who that is.
Caroline was one of the people that was one of Becca's friends that kept on trying to get screen time, and so they let her on bit.
Sweet Caroline.
Bum, bum, bum.
See, guys, I'm distracting her with music, so hopefully she'll stop talking about
The Bachelor. So there was that, and then they left. But really, the main story this week was that Chris decided...
The goose
decided that he had so many eggs in his goose basket that he could just go and do whatever he wanted. And then Tia called him out on it at the end of last week when he was trying to plan the breakfast, lunch, and dinner and drinks afterwards.
Yeah, that's the thing you talked about last week.
And then Tia was like, I don't understand how you can talk to me and say 2 hours before that you were here for me and you want me, and then you go and you kiss Crystal. And yes, he kissed Crystal, and I forgot to tell everyone the line that he used on Crystal where he said, I've never kissed a blonde. I'd like to give you that title. Like, who does that actually work on?
I think that's brilliant.
It's so dumb. It would not have worked on me. I'd have been like, no, it's not going to happen. That was ridiculous.
I would have done a pun off her name.
What would you have done?
Like,
because it's Chris and Crystal.
No.
Oh, no.
I would have been like Crystal Clear or something like that. Are you sure you feel this way about me? Crystal, baby.
Yeah.
That's them making out. Hey, Lise.
Yeah.
This show's pretty dumb.
Yeah.
And like, so 4 hours of television, the main storyline revolves around the same two people they've been telling the story about since we started this thing, which is Tia and that guy Colton.
I didn't even really even want to talk about that because I didn't really care about them at all. The people that I really cared about and still care about are Kendall and Joe, and now they brought in the third point of the triangle, Leo, who had the date to get to be a cover model for a romance novel, which is just right up his alley because I've been calling him Fabio since Becca's season, which I'm sure all of America was calling him as well. But he does not seem like a nice person. I was talking to Lori about that. Sorry.
What's upsetting to me is, like, you made me watch this stupid show, and I liked this guy because he seemed like the most normal, down-to-earth one. And now he's on this show, and it's just like he's just like everyone else. And I'm like, I hate all these people. I hate them all. I hate them all so much.
I mean, it has to go with how they edit the show, too, because as much as I adore Jordan, who is absolutely insane, the model, he has his like extreme highs and extreme lows of his personality that they've shown on the show, where he's got like a horrible temper, but then like this last episode he wrote "I'm sorry" in gigantic letters on the beach in order to show the girl that he liked that he was sorry. And while that is not enough,
we have what he did was he's been talking to a girl on the show. They've made out a few times. It's her birthday. Some guy gives her a giant stuffed animal for her birthday, another person on the show, a person that doesn't like Jordan, that is doing this specifically to piss him off and make him lash out and act ridiculous. And that's exactly what he does, because he marches up, takes the giant stuffed animal, and just tosses it into the ocean.
No, he chokes it first.
Oh, sorry. He chokes it first. He kills it. Then he tosses it into the ocean. And then he walks back to the group in a huff. And then some people start making fun of him because he's crazy.
And wearing a Hawaiian print tuxedo.
And he's wearing like a weird outfit. The vest. Yeah, just the vest and the pants. It's weird as shit. And then he tells them to go fuck themselves. Yeah. And that doesn't go over well. He's nuts.
I mean, it was not great. And
it's got some
I don't doubt that those things
happened.
Lows. But at the same time, there's been some other things.
They were recorded. Of course they happened.
I just think that there are some other things that the way that it has been edited could be intentionally trying to skew our view of it.
No, not on this show. They would never do something like that.
But I just thought it was really sweet how he was, I mean, like, the way that he attempted to apologize, he actually cares about this person, and he's got some flaws, and he's got some things that he definitely needs to work through. And I think that it's important for her to be aware of that and to take that into consideration whenever she's making a decision about who she wants to be with. And so I'm actually glad that that happened. That way she could see his true colors in that sense.
It's almost as if someone told him to do it.
Yeah. At the same time, I want to be able to award or acknowledge the fact that he was trying, and I appreciate that.
You watch that Unreal show, you know this is all bullshit. I know. Why are you buying into this? It's all bullshit. He doesn't give a shit about any of this. It's part of his character arc.
I know.
He goes crazy off the handle.
Benoit came back from Winter Games. You didn't watch Winter Games.
We are over time.
But anyways, it was really good. I'm looking forward to next week. I don't know what Jenna's going to do because now she's torn between Jordan and Benoit. And I don't know what Kendall's going to do because now she's torn between Grocery Store Joe and Fabio Leo.
Oh, no.
But Fabio Leo and Joe evidently get into a fight because that was hinted at. I know. It's going to be an interesting episode you'd want to tune in to watch.
I continually am shocked by the fact that everyone is always surprised when the half-naked drunk people on the beach start making out with each other. And you're
Why are people surprised by that?
No, they're surprised when someone I've been hanging out with you for a day, and then someone else comes in, and I go make out with that person. You're like, I thought us. What happened?
Well, that's Leo's whole thing that was hinted to in the next episode. Is he's like, well, where's it written down that I can't go and kiss someone else? Like, what Bachelor in Paradise rule is that? And
it's a fucking joke. Make out with whoever you want.
You have to realize that yes, when you're on that show, that is what they want you to do. And so when people get upset, but I like the fact that at least some of the guys are trying to have some sort of like class to them.
I am giving you an extremely incredulous look right now because I don't believe that at all.
That's why I said some sort of sometimes.
Just remember the garbage monster. It wants to eat it all.
Yeah.
It loves it.
I liked that. Not a moo. I couldn't eat it all. I had to put it away. I would have eaten it all, but I didn't.
What was that?
It was me being the garbage monster because the ice cream was so good, but it wasn't, guys, it wasn't real ice cream. It's not real milk.
Oh my God. I need you.
It's coconut milk.
I'm not going to cut this because I need you to listen to the podcast and realize that you went from Bachelor in Paradise to talking about ice cream with no transition there at all.
It went like completely seamless in my brain though.
It is wild.
Is it not?
It's insane. No.
I think it's just like it completely goes there. I thought, like me, garbage monster, eat the ice cream, Bachelor in Paradise. Everyone should eat ice cream on the Bachelor in Paradise now.
Babe, here's the thing I need to remind you of. When
not
you say,
everyone's brain works like mine.
Yes, but when you say the word not a moo, I know what you're talking about because we bought that ice cream 30 minutes ago. The people listening to this podcast have no idea what that is.
Oh my gosh, guys, Not a Moo is so awesome. It's this ice cream that's dairy-free that's made with coconut milk.
It tastes just like coconut, which means it's terrible and I hate it.
But if you like coconut milk, it tastes delicious.
Thanks.
And they have some little storefront that opened up in Austin. It was like a Baskin Robbins type thing, only with Not a Moo ice cream.
Thanks, I hate it.
Anyways, so that was good. So that is BIP, and I'm not for sure how many more weeks it's going on, but it's at least one more.
Hooray. Every rose has its thorn. Just like every night has its dawn.
Dawn, dawn, dawn.
Every cowboy sings a sad song. Every rose has its thorn. Yeah. Jesus.
Elyse. Pretty good, wasn't it?
Elyse, it's time for Rose and Thorn.
Oh yeah.
The things that happen to us that are good are called roses, and the things that they're bad are called thorns. And it's this way that we focus on not just the bad in our life and not just the good, and we recognize the two of them. So Elyse.
Yes.
You go first.
Okay.
What is your rose?
So I was really kind of excited to use this thing this week. I don't think that I had told you guys, but I definitely told Scott because he came up to my school whenever we were setting things up. And part of the refurbishment was they wired every single classroom with a microphone. And as I'm sure you guys can tell, I love microphones. And like I had actually told my kids just last week that I kind of, might have gone into the wrong profession because I loved the drama and the attention, and so they should stop talking and pay attention to me because I demand their attention in class, and so I demand their attention always.
Well, as the teacher, I feel like that's like
I know that's
your job.
Everyone knows that when you're the teacher, you get all the attention, and so there are a few times where I like the attention. It's not like all the time at all, but when I want the attention, I demand the attention. Anyways. So we get these microphones, and I hadn't used it at all the first week. And then our principal emails us out an email and asks us to start wearing the microphones because she just thinks it would be a good practice. And I think it really is supposed to help the kids hear better, whatever. So
that's not the important part.
So the important part is that I started to wear the microphone. And the important part is that I get to just talk in the microphone.
So I want all of our listeners to imagine this you right here.
Me.
But this is what's forming the mind of their 5th grade children.
I'm like really good at telling things.
You're a wonderful teacher, but I am imagining the line of thought that goes from Bachelor in Paradise to ice cream is probably what you're doing on the microphone.
I mean, no, because it's not the same thing every year, but I've had the same like standards every year for 8 years. So I know the standards really well, and I can deliver things in a fun way, but make sure that I teach the content. So it's always a grand time. But it was especially fun this week because I just got to, as I'm sitting at teacher table and I turn the mic off, but then they start to talk and not do what they're supposed to. I just turn the mic on and I speak into it and I say, you need to get back on task if you are at the partner table. And they like literally all look up like, it's God talking to us. And I'm like, it is me. Well, they didn't say it like that, but I might later this week because that was kind of fun. And I'm sure they would kind of enjoy that.
Students, this is God.
That was like...
knock it the fuck off.
I wouldn't say all of that. But that was my exciting Rose thing. And then like 30 minutes before we started recording, I checked my email because I had forgotten my phone at dinner. And my principal sent me an email and she said she'd like for me to attend the Leadership Development Academy for my district. And you get to nominate somebody. Does
that mean she thinks your leadership needs development?
No, that means that
is this your thorn?
No, that is a way for my district to develop teachers in order to seek different roles and opportunities outside of the classroom that are leadership opportunities. And it's kind of like the stair-step path that you take in order
to get up to administrator.
To get up to that. And so I thought that was really awesome. And I felt very honored that she thought of me and that she wanted to nominate me for that. So I just... that made me feel so warm and special and fuzzy.
Principal Daily coming up.
I was so excited about that. So I've got 2 roses, 2 wonderful things that happened this week.
That's great.
But what about you, Scott? What was so good for you?
I had a tough time this week coming up with a rose, not because everything in my life is terrible. I actually think everything in my life is like...
so good. How do you choose?
It's grooving right now. Yeah. Like things are going well. Things are going well at work. Things are going well at home. Things are going well at job number 2.
Hope they're going well at home.
So, so I picked something in the entertainment industry, as I am wont to do. I think it was today or yesterday, a rumor came out that the television show Veronica Mars might be coming back for a limited engagement 8-episode series on Hulu.
What?
Still, Kristen Bell going back into the role. I don't know if the audience knows that Veronica Mars is a show that I absolutely loved. I fell in love with even the 3rd season, which a lot of people don't like. I thought was really great. I love the show so much. They came out with a movie about 5 years ago. The movie was not very good.
I watched the movie. I've never watched the seasons.
The movie was not good. There were still, like, as a fan of the show, there were still parts of it that I enjoyed watching, but, like, it just wasn't that good a movie. But, hey, maybe 5 years removed from that, they've kind of maybe found a way to key into what worked on the show or not. And I'm pretty excited about this reboot. Or it's not a reboot, it's a revival.
I'm excited too because I'm hoping that since you said it was Hulu, right?
Yes.
Going to be doing it. So if Hulu decides to have a revival of it, then that might mean that they get all of the seasons. And so then we could actually watch it because I've wanted to watch it for a long time and we have actually tried to watch it multiple times. But every time that we are looking for it, it's either you have to buy the season, which is more than... what we normally pay to rent. And so
it's like $3 an episode.
Yeah. So we were just always like, no, we're not going to do that. And then the one streaming device that had it went away or something like that. I don't know what happened.
Streaming service that was free that had it on. And I guess they went out of business. So
it was a bummer. And so now I've never seen all of Veronica Mars. I did watch the movie. Very vaguely do I remember anything of it. I remember I watched it with my little sister, though.
I mean, you know me. I love crime and mystery stories. Private detective story is right up my alley. It was a great show. All right.
So I'm glad that it's coming back for you.
Yeah, let's go negative. Yeah. Elyse, what gross body thing is your thorn this
Okay,
week?
I know. It just always happens, doesn't it? But I guess it was Monday, Tuesday? I don't remember what day. It was Monday. I'm just sitting there, and then all of a sudden I realized like my little right toe is hurting, and so I went down to feel it, and then I was like, oh, my nail is caught. And then I examined it further and realized my entire right baby toenail was hanging on by one side of skin. And so I just cut it off. I took it off. But now it has been extremely painful. And I thought about, just covering it with a Band-Aid with the toenail on. And I was like, no, that's not going to work. So then I cut it off. Now that I cut it off, it's just really painful. And then I've been wearing shoes.
Rolling around in shoes, toenail free?
I did that yesterday.
What's wrong with you?
And it was wedges all day for parent night. So I was on my feet for 13 hours because I, get to school at like 6:20 and I left it.
You get to school at 6:20?
Yeah, I'm there about 6:20 every day.
What?
Yeah.
Doesn't school... What? This is news. This is how much I'm sleeping in the morning.
Yeah. I leave every day at about 6. During the spring semester and towards the end of the year, I'll get there later. But at the beginning of the year, there's a lot to do. And especially at the beginning of the year, first semester, when I start having after school meetings fairly frequently, I lose that time in order to get stuff ready. And so I have to get there earlier. And...
It's madness.
Now, I'm getting there earlier, but there's someone in my hallway that gets there earlier than me. And I've always been the earliest person and then can get my stuff done and then go in and talk to people and I guess distract them. And I'm doing exactly to them what she's done to me. And it's just like, whenever you walk in, I don't really want to talk to anyone for 30 minutes. I'm there to work and I'm there to get my stuff done. So
headphones, babe.
Don't talk to me.
You gotta get those noise canceling headphones.
Anyways.
Well, Elyse, you know what they say.
So that's my toenail.
The early bird
gets the broken toenail.
They have a toe fall off. Someone's going to have to do a supercut one day of Elise's gross bodily functions because that's what this podcast, that's the alternate name of this podcast.
Huh. What else do I have that's gross bodily functions?
That was not an invitation.
I had to blow my nose this week.
So my thorn.
Yeah, what is it?
When we recorded the first episode of the Doofcast, when we came back from our break, if the Fifth Element episode, those of you who listened to that will probably notice that it was storming in the background and there was a lot of lightning and thunder.
We've had a lot of storms.
Yeah, and I thought that our house got struck by lightning, and it didn't, but... Our tree got struck by lightning because when we got home from work on Friday, I guess it got hit and then was slowly weakening because two big old branches of our tree broke off and we're just sitting in our front lawn. So that was fun. And this is not the first time this happened. I think all the trees surrounding this house are very old. Thankfully, we are renting, so it is not our problem. I email the landlord and say, hey, the tree fell down. I'll take care of it. And they did. And yes, they did trim all the trees, by the way.
Oh, they did? Did you look at the one in the back?
Yeah, they trimmed them all.
The one that, okay, good. Because there's one branch that looked like it was maybe going to fall on the house.
I mean,
there's a lot of trees. We've got 6 trees on this lot, and it's a pretty tiny lot, and they're big trees.
They're great.
You know that there's
and they're very shallow roots. I'm sure the foundation in this house is fucked.
Hashtag not ours.
Yeah, I'm very glad we don't own this house. It's a great house. I'm glad we don't own it.
Do people still do that? Hashtag.
Do people still use hashtags?
No, I know they use hashtags, but it used to be hashtag this, hashtag that. I feel like I'm so out of touch with
I don't know if anyone,
the younger generation.
Did people
these days.
ever not do that ironically? I feel like it was just people doing that ironically.
I don't know.
You're making the hashtag thing, and that's what Justin Timberlake did on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
it was
I know
always
it's a joke, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like nowadays people, it's no longer text messaging. They like to FaceTime. What is that?
Talking on the
phone? I know. They go back. They have gone back to talking on the phone.
Whoa.
My newest teammate, who is not fresh out of college, but she's out of college more recently than I am. Yeah. And I always hear her talking on the phone. And I'm like, what? I guess talking on the phone again is cool.
Talking is in now.
What? Talking is in. Texting is out, which is, I guess, is good.
Shit.
Yeah, and then all these kids are like, do you got house party? What's house party? Oh, house party is when you can have the same phone conversation with a lot of people. And I'm thinking
so a group phone call?
Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, do you have that app? And I'm like, I used to do that on my phone line, a party line. And they're like, yeah, you just got to go get that house party app. I'm like, oh my gosh.
What is
I'm
the
so
world?
old.
Yeah,
They're
Jesus.
going back. Anyways.
Okay. That is it for Rose and Thorn. I can't take this.
Yeah.
I can't take this shit making me feel a little
I
old
know.
anymore.
I know.
So let's instead talk about YA novels.
Which is good, too, I guess.
Actually, aren't I supposed to go first this time?
Okay, you can go first this time.
Yeah.
Right, where's first? Okay.
So, my movie, I picked Adaptation, which is a 2002 movie written by Charlie Kaufman and Donald
I
Kaufman.
put that on there for you.
And it was directed by Spike Jonze, who also directed Being John Malkovich. He directed Her, which is the other.
He directed Black Klansman that we just watched too, right?
That's Spike Lee. Spike
Spike
Lee and
Lee.
Spike Jonze are two different people.
Ah. Not a lot of people named Spike.
Spike Jonze is a white person.
That would make sense.
Yes.
I'm sorry I got that confused.
It's okay. This is a movie based off of the novel The Orchid Thief by Susan Orlean, but it's a movie about Charlie Kaufman, who is the writer of this movie, but also the protagonist of this movie as he tries to adapt a book called The Orchid Thief by Susan Orlean. It is starring Nicolas Cage as both Charlie and Donald Kaufman. Donald is his twin brother who doesn't exist in real life. Charlie Kaufman is very much a real writer. Donald Kaufman is not. It also stars Meryl Streep as Susan Orlean, and I blanked on his name.
Chris Cooper?
Yeah, Chris Cooper, who plays LaRoche. He won an Oscar for that role, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have never read the book this is based off of. I've never read The Orchid Thief, but that's okay because this movie really isn't about the Orchid Thief, but it kind of is also. So, first, the reason I picked this is one.
Okay,
This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely adore this movie. I love just about everything about it. I love its silliness. I love its meta-ness. I love that even as it's silly and meta, there are moments of real like pathos and real like messaging and wonderful like just beautiful dialogue and beautiful filmmaking. I think I saw this movie. I was in college. It came out in 2002. Yeah, so
Yes.
I didn't see it in theaters. I think one of my friends, I think the same friend that I've talked about on the podcast before that kind of got me into the indie movie scene because he used to shamelessly download and rip movies illegally and had them in a giant binder. So he got this movie and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I love just about like it's so hard to, we're going to get there, but it's so hard to break down all the things I love about this movie.
Now, we're not going to break it down into like extreme depth, but we'll just break it down a little bit at a time.
I'm not going to talk about it for like an hour. It's okay.
It's not your
okay.
BIP.
What?
It's not your BIP.
My BIP?
Your BIP, Bachelor in Paradise.
Oh, no. Ew. That's disgusting relating this. No.
I mean, you really like it and you like to talk about it.
So, yeah. So, I mean, this movie holds a very important place in my heart. And I wanted to share it with you. That's kind of what this whole podcast is about. And I wanted to share this movie with you knowing that two of the three main stars in it are people that you don't particularly like. You are not a fan of Nick Cage and you are not a fan of Meryl Streep.
No.
So, Elyse.
Yes.
Before we
Thoughts
get into
on
this
this
movie,
movie?
I want to hear what you thought of it.
Okay. Well, I had seen this movie only once before. That was when I had taken my trip to Europe the summer after we'd actually just started dating. So we'd been together for like 3-4 months and April, May, July. Yeah. So about 3 months. And before the whole trip, I was like, I want some movies to watch. Will you help me find some movies that will be good? And you gave me 3 movies. The first one was What We Do in the Shadows, which absolutely adore. Still watch it and love to watch it every single time. I'm so glad they're making a sequel. The other one was This Is Where I Leave You, and I love Zach Braff and Kate Hudson.
I don't think I picked that movie for
Maybe
you.
I picked that movie because I love Zach Braff. But then the third one was this one, and I was very hesitant to download it, but I was like, you know what? It's a movie. He told me how much he loves it, so that's fine. I'll watch it and give it a try. And I watched it, and I don't know. I think it was the mental block, but between me, not liking Nicolas Cage and Meryl Streep very much. And so it was just really hard for me to watch it that first time. And I was not impressed with it really at all. So I was excited that you picked it again, even though I didn't like those actors, because watching it with you, I felt like would be something completely different, because knowing that you like it, maybe that would help me like the movie a little bit more. And I think that the second time around, I did appreciate it a lot more. I love whenever you are just watching movies and you're like, oh, this line is so good, just because I think that that's cute. But at the same time, the movie is so funny because it is so meta that I think that I was just blocked off to seeing it at first. And now that I watched it again, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so funny that they're doing this. And they're talking about like, don't do the voiceover. And then he does the voiceover. And like what you were saying at the beginning when he was explaining all the things that you shouldn't do in the movie for the screen or the screenplay for this book. And that's everything that they do in the screenplay. And it's just like all of those little things. It's a brilliantly written movie. And I think that makes it amazing. I will agree that I think Nicolas Cage is good in this movie. I still don't really like Meryl Streep very much.
Okay.
And that's just my own personal taste. That's just me. But watching this one too, whenever she was younger, I've seen some stuff with her daughter in it recently because I watched The Newsroom. And it was really weird for me because I really kept seeing her daughter. And so that was freaky. But you know, all in all, I really liked the movie a lot more this time around. So I'm glad that I rewatched it and kind of went into it a little bit more open-minded this time, thinking that maybe if I watch it with you, I'll appreciate it more, because I think that I did.
Okay,
so that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there are some movies out there that become better on a second watch. You can appreciate more of what it's doing on the second watch. This is a movie that, in my opinion, almost requires it. And that's why the first time I watched it, I literally finished the movie and then pressed play again and watched the entire movie again right after that, because I was so like knocked out by this movie. What it's doing with all the meta stuff and kind of the meta jokes almost require you to understand that it's building up this meta thing. Like I would be very interested in finding someone who sat down this movie that didn't know that Charlie Kaufman is a real person and Nicolas Cage is just playing a movie version of him, that didn't know that The Orchid Thief is a real book that they really were trying to adapt into a movie. And a lot of Charlie Kaufman, the character, struggle with the adaptation, mirror Charlie Kaufman, the writer, struggle with finding a way to adapt this book. And of course, the entire third act is completely made up and ridiculous, and just him kind of embracing all the tropes that he's feigned hating throughout the entire story before that to ridiculous levels. But there's just something about, and I think you're absolutely right that the script is brilliant. And that's Charlie Kaufman. Like, I've loved just about every single movie he's ever made. His scripts are always so weird, but so like complex and deep and layered. And it like, you it's not just something, I don't think a Charlie Kaufman is a movie where you can just like sit back and casually watch it. I think you need to be active in your watching of this movie. I don't think it's a passive enterprise. I think you need to be there with it and be following it and be paying attention to it and meet the movie halfway, because the movie is doing so many different weird off the wall things that you got to keep up with it.
I'm trying to think of, I know I've seen this. You said John Malkovich, being John Malkovich, he wrote Anomalisa.
Correct.
What else has he written?
He wrote Eternal Sunshine.
Okay,
of the
see, I
Spotless
love
Mind.
Eternal Sunshine.
He wrote Synecdoche, New York.
I did not see that one. Yeah, okay. I like Anomalisa. I think that was, his stuff is very statement-y. Like it, well, I guess this one isn't much of a statement. I feel like Eternal
This was
Sunshine.
totally a statement.
I guess it was.
My favorite scene in this entire movie is like the whole thing about this movie, like the book is about disappointment. And the book, like that's they say that right in the movie, that the Orchid Thief, this whole book is Susan Orlean is studying this man LaRoche who like is a guy that just gets obsessed with things. Like he just finds something and he gets obsessed with it, and then he's able to just completely abandon one thing to move on to the next. And she finds him fascinating because she wants to love something as much as he loves the thing he thinks he does, but she's also fascinated by his ability to move on to the next thing. And then like the ghost orchid in this movie becomes like a symbol of something she's chasing that she can't ever get because she never finds it in the book. And I think that's the disappointment of that is kind of present throughout this story as well, because like we have Charlie Kaufman, who is this man who he's brilliant. He's a successful screenwriter in the world of the movie. He's a brilliant, successful screenwriter. Like they're filming Being John Malkovich during his writing process for this. So like it's acknowledged that, hey, he's doing great, but he has no confidence in himself. He's always constantly worried about what everyone else is thinking. Has internal monologue going, like, what do I think about this? I should do this. I should do that. No, I need to do this. And he's like neurotic to a point of craziness. But what Kaufman does that I think is so brilliant is he makes the Dennis character, and he makes the Dennis character that is Donald, sorry, an identical twin to Charlie. So Charlie is a guy who hates the way he looks. He thinks he's fat. He thinks he's balding. He thinks he's ugly. No one wants anything to do with him. Donald is identical to him, but Donald is outgoing. Donald is personable. Donald has no problem meeting people and being with people. Like he has a very beautiful girlfriend played by Maggie Gyllenhaal. He's just like, he is everything that Charlie is not in those ways, but he also sees him as like he has none of the skill. Like Charlie identifies himself by the things he does good, which is the writing, and he's bad at everything else. He says Donald is good at all these other things, but he can't write a screenplay. And that part of the story is Donald saying he's going to write a screenplay now, and it's a ridiculous story about a serial killer cop and kidnap victim that are all the same person, which is hilarious. But slowly throughout the movie, Donald, like he writes that ridiculous screenplay, it gets bought. He's going to get, and as Charlie is struggling with his whole world comes crashing down. And the movie pays off in this wonderful moment at the end of it, which is one of my favorite scenes from film ever, which is where Charlie and Donald, the third act of the movie gets ridiculous. Like they find out that Susan and LaRoche have found a way to take the ghost orchid and make drugs out of it, and they're like drug dealers that are in love with each other now. It's a ridiculous, like absurd thing that's not remotely true at all.
But it definitely makes it for an interesting story.
Of course it does.
So you gotta go with it, Donald.
You gotta wow him in the end, as O'Keefe says.
You
do. But like they're sitting there hiding in the swamp, and Charlie's talking about how he was always so envious of Donald because Donald just seemed so unaware and ignorant, and nothing fazed him. And he tells a story about how when he was a kid, well, I think we're just going to play the clip here.
I admire you, Donald, you know. I spent my whole life paralyzed, worrying about what people think of me. And you're just oblivious.
I'm not oblivious.
No, you don't understand. I mean that as a compliment. It was this time in high school. I was watching you at the library window. You were talking to Sarah Marsh.
Oh, God, I was so in love with her.
I know. And you were flirting with her. And she was being really sweet to you.
I remember that.
And then, when you walked away, she started making fun of you with Kim Kennedy. And it was like they were laughing at me. You didn't know it all? You seemed so happy.
I knew. I heard them.
Well, how come you were so happy?
I love Sarah, Charles. It was mine. That love. I owned it. Even Sarah didn't have the right to take it away. I can love whoever I want.
She thought you were pathetic.
was her business, not mine. You are what you love, not what loves you. That's what I decided a long time ago.
And that line at the end there, that line, you are what you love, not what loves you, I think is just this beautiful sentiment that like reflects the difference in these two characters. Like all Charlie cared about was what people thought of him. And to Donald, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what people thought of him because what matters is what he loves, what he thinks of himself. And I think this is like for a 19-year-old, very shy, very reserved guy that I was the first time I saw this movie, that was really impactful to me. That mattered to me. And that helped change me. And that's why this is one of my favorite movies. And the things that it's doing with that the wonderful story it weaves to get to this point, that it's both entertaining and fun and filled with great performances. Like, I know you don't like Nick Cage.
I know I don't, but I agree that he was good in this.
He was so good. He has to play two entirely different characters and make it clear and look the exact same, but make it clear that how they are different. And he does it in how he holds himself. Charlie slumps. Like they're the same size, but Charlie looks fatter because he holds himself that way. He doesn't hold himself upright. He's always slumped over. The way he stutters, the way he speaks, that like he plays these two characters, and it's not like. And I think this is why I didn't win the Oscar, because he was nominated for the Oscar for this, but he did not win. Is because it's not a typical Oscar performance, except for that speech at the end that we played. It's not like a big performance. It's very small and subtle. We talked about this with Amy Adams, and that's why she didn't win hers. It's a very kind of...
She wasn't even nominated.
Yeah, you're right. Oscars.
Yeah.
It's a very small... Nicolas Cage is a big actor. Like, that's what he does. He's
which is, I guess,
he's
the only
big
reason...
and flamboyant, and...
The reason Meryl Streep is nominated that much is because she only takes those big things where she has to be so extravagant that she doesn't get to be subtle.
But this was not a big role.
I know. This is one of the roles where I was like, oh, she actually is trying to actually be normal, and then she doesn't do it anymore. She did the one like what Sophie's Choice, you said. And
We're not.
Anyways, I told you I wasn't gonna do that. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna do it anymore. We're just gonna continue to talk about Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I agreed he was better in this.
He's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just think it like that he has to communicate the difference between these two guys, and the whole movie hinges on his performance and the difference in his performance, not just Nicolas Cage as Charlie Kaufman, Nicolas Cage as Donald Kaufman, and the difference between Charlie and Donald Kaufman. The whole thing hinges on that. And I just think it's so weird and funny and wonderful and just works in every imaginable way. I think Spike Jonze is just this fantastic director that just has an ability to get these performances out of people. Like, I've always liked Nick Cage's performances, but what he gets out of him here is just remarkable. It's beautiful, and I love this movie.
That's what a director is.
I love this movie.
That's what they should do.
I love the speech about the bees and the orchids. How they do their little dance in the world without even being aware of the bigger picture, but they make the world survive.
I had no idea that some of those flowers, like they actually look like the insects in order to get them to pollinate.
Orchids are brilliant. Cool. Orchids are really cool.
Orchids are my favorite plant, or not just plant, but my favorite flower. I love them. I'm glad I rewatched it. So thank you for making me do that. I was hesitant, but then I was excited about it, and I was very pleased.
This is probably
all those emotions
of all the movies I've made you watch during our relationship. This is probably the one I've been the most nervous about, especially when I gave it to you all those months ago. I don't believe in the idea of like a deal breaker movie. Like a lot of the really big film people I know have like,
if they don't like this movie, then I'm leaving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. I think that's a little silly. But if I had one, this would probably be the closest one.
Well, it's a good thing I rewatched it and liked it better.
Like I said, I'm not gonna leave you because you don't like this movie. That's ridiculous.
Thanks, babe.
But I don't know. There's just like I think the message of this movie is beautiful. I think it proves that you can have this funny, weird thing, but still tell this impactful story that I will never forget. And you know, Fall Out Boy took that line and put it in one of their songs. You are what you love,
Fallout Boy.
not who loves you. And I'm like, I haven't heard the song, but I don't want to. It's gonna.
We're not going to
it.
listen to it. We're not even going to put it in the podcast. We're not even going to look at the lyrics. We're just not going to give it any consideration.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's Adaptation.
Yeah.
Guys, I mean, holy shit. See this movie, please. If you have not seen this movie.
See this movie twice. Please watch it twice. Because the first time you may not like it. And the second time you need to listen to our podcast in between again. And then go back and rewatch it a second time. And then I think you'll like it more.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, right? It's a good plan.
So did you
Gave
know,
you a plan prescription written by me.
do you know Susan Orlean was like super against this
I would
first time she read the script?
Yeah.
Because they needed her to sign off on it before they could do it.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, what? No. But they said they didn't try to push her. They didn't try, but they just said, okay, will you just please think about it for a bit? And she went back and read it a few more times. And I think she realized that what it actually does, and the genius of Kaufman, that I think it does capture the themes of the book without really adapting the book.
Yeah.
Because it's about flowers. How do you make a book about, how do you make a movie about flowers?
I don't know. I'm glad I didn't have to do it.
Me neither. But that's Charlie Kaufman.
And now, guys, what everyone has been waiting for, the big draw to this week's show is the Twilight Saga. New Moon.
Okay, so I have a lot of things to say, but
yes,
I want to let you set this up first because
okay.
I guess set up the movie for me, and then please, for the love of God, tell me why you picked this movie.
Can I start with the why, or do you want to hear the setup for the movie?
Set it up. Go ahead and set it up.
So in the first book, in the first movie, there was Bella Swan who had moved to Forks, Washington, because she was going to go live with her dad. And when she moved there, she started high school. She was totally not into it, was complete isolated or loner, whatever. And then there was Edward. And so she had this complete draw to him, and figure out later, Edward is a vampire and he lives with his vampire family and all of that. And then Bella and Edward, oh yay, they fall in love. But Edward, no, I can't be with you because I'm a vampire and you're human. And Bella's like, but please, you need to be with me. And then in the meanwhile, there's all of these vampires that are coming to Forks, and they're trying to, and successfully killing a lot of people that are in the town. And so Edward and his family are trying to fight them and get them away. And then Bella gets into the mix again. Anyways, blah, 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 blah. The three vampires that were trying to kill all the people, one of them dies. It was the love interest of the girl in the three. She gets upset.
Okay, we do not need to tell the entire plot of the first
movie. You said to set it up. I'm setting it up.
To say that who directed it and wrote it.
Oh, I thought you meant set up the plot. And I was like, I'll just tell him why that I did it.
No.
Oh, well, let me finish because I'm almost done. Sorry. Misinterpreted that.
I was like, is she really going to tell this entire
I was
story?
like, do you really want me to tell? Anyways. So then, whatever, leave, and then Bella and Edward are, quote unquote, together. So there's that. Twilight Saga.
Cool.
Twilight. Anyways, so then
the movie you picked is the sequel.
Then comes the Twilight Saga New Moon in 2009. It was written by Melissa Rosenberg, who also wrote episodes for Jessica Jones, all the other Twilight movies, Dexter, and oh my gosh, Be Still My Heart, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman episodes. So good. It was directed by Chris Weitz, who also directed About a Boy, which I do really like, and then Golden Compass, which is an adaptation of a book that you guys read for book club earlier. I didn't think you liked very much. But, of course, this is now about Edward and Bella again, but this time, oh no, Edward leaves Bella after an attack that nearly claimed her life, and in her depression, she falls into yet another paranormal relationship, this time with werewolf Jacob Black. Hashtag Team Jacob, hashtag Team Edward. Whose side are you on?
Okay, so
yeah,
we picked the sequel because I told you I had already seen the original Twilight.
Yes.
I've seen the first one and I've seen the last one. I've never read any of the books. So that's why we picked New Moon.
Well, I was trying to think about which of the ones that I wanted to watch with you after that, and I couldn't really remember if I liked Eclipse or not, and I remember the most about New Moon, and then I'll get into the whole other Twilight, my history with it later, but
we made
that
it about 30 minutes into Eclipse before I said fuck this and I turned it off.
And before it was a Friday night after Lisa's first full week of school, so she just crashed.
Well, yeah, I'm not, if you're asleep,
She
I'm not
made
gonna
it
watch it.
through New Moon and then was like, no, I can't do the other one. I'm just
All
too
right, so
tired.
Elyse, please explain
Yes.
to me why you picked Twilight to talk about, please.
So I was trying to think about books that I had actually read and then were adapted into a movie, because I thought that you had read the book
We
for
never
adaptation.
said that. We
That
never
was
said
my
that.
misconception. Anyways, so I was trying to think about all these, and I know there are a lot of movies that are adapted from like short stories and books, but the ones that just kept popping into my mind were the ones that were series. And so I know that you'd seen the Harry Potter movies, but I haven't actually read all of the Harry Potter books. I know Gas, I'm a teacher, but I still haven't. I'd read all the Hunger Game I read all the Hunger Game books and seen all the movies.
Me too.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, Twilight. I've read all the Twilight books. And so then when that conversation came up, I was like, well, I guess I'll have to do that because you hadn't seen any of the movies. And the reason that I actually read Twilight, I started it when I was in college because I guess I just found it later from when it was published. And my little sister did not like to read. Meredith never got into books at all. And then she started reading Twilight, and it was like addictive for her. She actually read all of the books and sped through all of the books. And so my thought was, if my little sister, who doesn't like to read, went through all of these books and loved them, and she did it so quickly, then I guess it's got to be kind of good, right? And my older sister had read them as well. And so I thought, you know what? I'll just give it a go. And so I started reading them. And the first book, it was decent. I liked it okay. The second book, it was okay. They sadly got worse. I actually think that the movie Eclipse, or not the movie, the book Eclipse, I think I remember liking the book Eclipse. It's been so long since I read them though. I think that I remember liking Eclipse and the first one the most, and not liking Breaking Dawn very much. And the New Moon was just weird because it didn't really it fit in with all of the characters and setting and all of that, but it was just it didn't quite fit in with the complete narrative. So it was just not my favorite movie, not my favorite book, but I just picked this one because I was like, oh well, I remember this one the most.
Yeah.
So that's why I did this one.
Okay.
But in 2009, that was also when I was in college, and that was
Not me. I was done with college.
We did the midnight showing, me and my roomies, for
Oh boy.
Twilight Saga New Moon, and so
Oh
that was
boy.
fun. We all bought tickets and went to go see it. So it was like an experience, and Twilight was probably the first young A series that I read all the way through, because like I said, I started Harry Potter, but I never finished it.
I've never heard it called Young A before.
Young A? Young adult?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and YA.
No.
I've
Young
never
A.
heard it called Young A before.
Anyways, so I did read Twilight, and then after that, I had found the Hunger Games, and me and another girl in my sorority, we loved those books. And then when they announced they were making that into a movie, that was really cool. And so I don't know, it's just one of those books, one of those movies. I was like,
All right.
I'll just get
All
you to
right.
watch it. No, it's not good. I know it's not good. And it's so bad that I knew the only way to get you through it would be potentially watching and having your New Moon drinking game, which we didn't even really follow. It was just more of, oh, look, they have their shirt off again, Scott, you need to take a drink. And him not really being like, I'm just going to watch it and do what I want to do. But anyways,
Yeah.
go ahead, Scott.
So, okay. I'm not going to sit here and shit all over Twilight. I think those books were very popular for a very lot of people.
They were.
And I think that's fine. I think anything that gets kids to read more is great. And it doesn't have to be the perfect books. I've never read them. I've only seen 3 of these movies now. This movie's awful.
It's not good. No.
It's real bad. So the first one was not a good movie, but I feel like I remember the first one leaning into its campiness a little bit. Like, I think the director of the first one knew that this shit was ridiculous and kind of leaned into the ridiculousness of it and acknowledged that. And I think the last movie is fucking fantastic because the third act of the last movie is just vampires ripping each other's heads off in a giant snowy battlefield. And I was like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
This movie was a lot of just like, I don't even think it's that bad.
This is the most angsty of all the movies.
It's just kind of bleh.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
that's why the book wasn't great. It was
nothing
the whole
happens. So
yeah.
like the plot of this movie is she wants to be a vampire, right? She wants him
she
to
wants to be a vampire, but he doesn't want to.
He won't do it because then she'll lose her soul. And the weird thing about that to me is in most vampire lore, like being a vampire is not a good thing because like you turn into like a demon and it's got all these drawbacks. It's like, yeah, you get to live forever. Oh, but you can never see the sun again. Oh, you have to hunt people and kill them. And in some of the lore, you literally just like turn into a demon. Like you're not the same person. Not in Twilight, though. In Twilight, you like are super strong.
Sparkly skin.
You can run really fast.
Yeah.
The sun doesn't hurt you. Apparently, I don't remember what happened. Like they have like synthetic blood or some nonsense. So or like animals or something. So they don't have to kill people. They get superpowers. Each vampire has like a superpower.
Yeah.
And there's like no. So if you build your whole plot around like Bella is being kind of young and naive and not understanding the downsides of becoming a vampire, but you construct your world around the fact that like being a vampire is actually like super awesome. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And here's the other reason why this movie's bad. Jacob sucks.
And that was the whole reason, too, that a lot of people didn't like this book and didn't like the movie was because the whole series focuses around Edward and Bella. Mm-hmm. And then in this one, Edward leaves.
We're going to build a love triangle.
And so it's one thing to build a love triangle, but have everyone there. And then it's another one to have just a like, quote unquote, ghost there speaking to her and telling her, what are you doing? You can't, hurt yourself. You promised me you wouldn't do anything stupid. And then it's just, that was the whole issue with this book. Not the whole issue, but that was the big issue with the fan base and this book and this movie was that the reason that people watched it and liked it for the majority was because it was Edward and Bella. And then they brought in Jacob. And that's why a lot of people were like, she doesn't even like Jacob. What are we doing with Jacob? And then people tried to rally and be like, oh no, we like Jacob. At least he's there. Team Jacob.
Yeah,
and then they created the whole battle when it didn't even really need to happen.
The one thing I know about Twilight is the Team Edward, Team Jacob thing. And I'm watching this movie and I'm like, why the fuck was this guy sucks? First of all, he shows up in the movie with the worst fucking wig I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It is so
it's
bad.
Not great.
It is so terrible.
Not good at all.
And I'm like, I know later in the movie, because I've seen screenshots from it, I know later in the movie he's going to cut his hair off, and I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the moment where he gets his fucking hair cut off because that wig looks so awful. And he's just so inert. Like, the whole reason why Bella likes him, quote unquote, is because he's literally just a warm body that's there. Like,
and a warm body because vampires are cold. Okay. So really a warm body.
Yeah. He's just there. And then it's like it's bending over backwards to construct this love triangle, but there's nothing between them.
There's no chemistry.
And don't get me wrong, there's nothing between Bella and Edward either. He sucks too. But
sucks.
Stop it. But the werewolf guy, so bad.
I know.
It's so bad.
I know.
And look, you're going to disagree with me on this. Kristen Stewart is a great actress. She is very talented. The most recent stuff that she's done with Olivier, how do I say his name? Assayas. She did
that movie that we bought for this in the Criterion Collection. What movie is that?
Personal Shopper.
Yes.
She is fantastic. And I think Robert Pattinson's a very good actor too. I've seen him in some recent stuff that he's done and he's really good. they are bad in this movie. And I have to chalk that up to the dialogue and the direction.
I know the dialogue is awful.
It's so bad.
It's so awful.
But it's so inert too. It's not even the words, it's how they're saying the words. There's nothing there. It's like the decision was, because this is going to be like angsty teen romance, we have to just have like this almost like this monotone, like it's not really emo, but it's just like this it's flat. It's just flat.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to it. And there's like we're dealing with these things like these like the idea of I want to be immortal because I dream about the day that you and I are going to be old, or I'm going to be old and die, and you will still be the same age. And that terrifies me. Like, that is some raw, like, passion and emotion and fear. And it's just inert in this movie. You don't feel any of it. It's just like, there's none of it there. And like, again, I think these people are fantastic actors, but my God, it's just so bad. It's so bad. Like,
so you get why I thought that she was always awful.
I absolutely. If you just watch Kristen Stewart in these movies, and that's her entire range for you, she looks like a terrible actress.
Well, and then when you start with these, and it's like, these are all the things that I pick up that she's doing and that I really don't like, and then you see her do those little things in the other movies, and you're like, can you stop trying to be Bella? And this was not good. And so
she's not trying. She's not trying. That's just Kristen.
I
That's
know.
Kristen Stewart coming through the performance.
It's just, ugh.
I mean,
Stop biting your lip. Stop biting your lip.
people,
Not you.
People bite their lips, Elyse.
It's just, she like bites her lip, and then she puts her head down and she looks to the left, and then she flips her hair over with her hand, and it's every single thing, every single time.
It's probably all she could do in this movie.
No, it's in other movies too.
Well, yeah. I mean, every actor has tics, but man, I'm trying to come up with something good I can say about this movie.
It ends. That's something good.
It is.
So something else that was good was when I was talking to you about how I think it was interesting to getting off of the movies, but onto the books. We'd had a discussion, I guess it was earlier this year, because there's another book that was adapted, or is, I guess it was already adapted because there's trailers coming out for a movie that I read recently that I really liked. And I know you haven't read the book yet, and we're going to be excited to go see the movie, The Hate You Give. And it's been interesting. I know that you've commented on, that we've talked about, that a lot of the young adult books that have been made into movies, which I think is a very popular thing to do, to try and get teenagers to go and see things. Yeah. Has transitioned a lot over the past few years, at least from when we were teenagers to now. Or I think, because like whenever I remember being younger, it was Harry Potter that was the big thing. It was then, yes, Twilight that was the big thing. Then it was the Hunger Games that was the big thing. And it was always those series that had like some sort of fantasy element to it.
Yeah.
And
well,
it was
Harry
a group
Potter
of
opened
friends.
that door.
Yeah. And I think that was an important thing to open and to do. And it definitely is still a book series that kids love and gravitate towards. But previous to that, the style of book was a lot different for young A.
I can't believe I'd never heard that before.
Sorry. And it was like, I have the book, The Giver, in my classroom. And that's a difficult book, I feel like, especially for fifth graders, just reading it. But then like The Outsiders and The Giver and Fahrenheit 451, and like you have all of those books, and they were very different styles, and they were made into media for people to see too. And then it went to the fantasy, and now it's transitioning back to the more of social issues, political things. And I think that's interesting. And I'm glad that it's making that turn, because I think it's important for kids to be able to take part in that and understand it. And reading it is one thing, but seeing it is also.
Yeah, I mean, YA is a kind of a weird genre, right? Because it's not very old. I mean, there were always books kind of targeted towards younger adults and children, but we didn't really start calling them young adult until relatively recently. And yeah, the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, a lot of that was, very politically charged stuff for kids, because it fit the time. I think The Outsiders is like it's dealing with a lot of things kids were dealing with at the time, and it's exploring, coming of age type stuff. And then Harry Potter came in the 90s and like changed the game, and then like the world of young adult fiction moved around it, and we transitioned from Harry Potter-esque fantasy to the kind of dark supernatural romance into we went into like the post-apocalyptic type story, like
dystopian societies.
Like that's when Hunger Games got big, and the Maze Runner series, and,
and then there's a series called Matched too that is evidently a big thing.
Now one of the big things with kids is social issues, politics, and we're seeing, the books that are coming out start to match that. And it's really cool. I mean, that the Hate U Give trailer looks fantastic. I'm extremely excited about that movie. I'm going to get around to reading the book eventually. It's on my list, my very, very long list that I've been trying really hard to cut down. But I think, YA is important. And even when it's stuff like Twilight, I think it's important because those books I don't think have like a great message to them. Like the sexual politics and the relationship politics in the Twilight books don't seem like they're the best from what I've seen in the films. There's a lot of, Bella is a very subservient thing. Like Edward is kind of creepy and stalkery, and that's like a symbol of his love, right? That's what the book paints it as. And I think the woman who wrote, Stephanie Meyer, is Mormon, right? And I think a lot of the relationship stuff in the book matches her faith, I would say, from what I understand of Mormonism. I'm not insulting anyone that happens to be Mormon at all. It's just different. And I am glad to see, kids care about this kind of stuff. We live in a very politically charged world right now, especially if you happen to be a minority. And I think it's great that we're seeing our fiction, especially our young fiction, follow that. And if you have kids, if you have kids that are old enough to read that book.
And even if they're not old enough to read that book, there's so many middle grade books that the issues have been trickling down into, like that book that I read over the summer that was that Ghost Boys. And it's like, I think a lot of times that, yes, we want kids to be kids, but I feel like in this day and time, kids can't just be kids. And
they've got if it's not coming from you, it's coming from
someone. And I think
sources.
that it's important for us to recognize that these authors are trying to put stories into kids' hands. So they're social stories that teach them how to process things and how to think about relationships and issues. And if we try and keep them from reading these things, then we're just creating older adults who don't know how to process it and don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that young adult books are so powerful, and middle grade books and just books in general are such a powerful tool, whether they are, like picture books. I read picture books with my 5th graders, and
Grumpy Monkey.
You can learn so much from those.
Grumpy Monkey.
Grumpy Monkey is a really good book. You can learn so much from them. And I think it's important when you're older to read the simple, because I think a lot of times we try and make life so complex that we forget that sometimes life is just a picture book, and you read it and it makes it clear.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see our picture books be movies. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
again.
You're fine.
And so it just takes that for us into a different version again. So
one thing for sure you're not going to get an argument out of me about is the importance of storytelling.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And that is why I think we've said this on the show before, but I'll repeat it again. I am continually impressed by your desire and work towards bringing books into your classroom that are different from the usual books kids would read at that time. Your commitment to diversity in both the subjects and the authors of the books that you're presenting to your kids is really great. And I wish everyone would do that.
Thank you. Me too.
So that's our talk about Twilight.
Yeah.
That's where it went. All right. Let's wrap this thing up. Elyse,
Okay, Scott, what are we doing next week?
next week,
Or do you want me to explain it? Whatever.
I could do it.
Okay.
So
good at explaining.
this weekend we saw a movie called Crazy Rich Asians, which is also an adaptation. Look at that
Yes,
theme.
it is.
Which they greenlit the sequel, by the way.
Oh, did
today?
they?
Yes, they did.
I
So
didn't
the
know there
sequel
was
to
a
that
book
movie.
sequel.
There's two.
Huh.
I think it's called China Rich something. I don't remember.
Interesting.
Anyway, we went and saw that movie at the Alamo Drafthouse, and they were doing their usual 30 minutes prior pre-show, and it was in a trailer. I think it was just talking about the cultural significance of a movie called Flower Drum Song.
I think it started. Was it in part of the mini documentary of the history of Asian film?
Yeah, history of Asian American film, basically. Yeah. And it was Flower Drum Song, which is a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical that was a complete Asian cast.
Uh-huh.
And we were looking at each other and we're like, "Have you ever seen this movie?" And you were like, "No." And I was like, "Yeah, me neither." So we kind of took that and we were like, let's do something with that. Let's do something we're calling classical blind spots, which is just older, influential, important films that neither of us have seen. And we'll just kind of look through. Elyse, I think you ended up picking that movie, right?
I did. I picked Flower Drum Song because it's a musical and I love musicals. And so I was like, you know what? Let's just do that because something that I haven't seen, but I think it's something that I will enjoy. So it was kind of not just movies that we haven't seen that are classics that maybe we haven't seen them because we weren't really intrigued by them, but it was something that we haven't seen it. I don't know why I haven't seen it, but I think I'm going to like it. And I hope that I like it.
I hope so too.
That's why I picked that one,
so
Flower Drum Song.
Picked Flower Drum Song. I picked a movie called Double Indemnity. This is a movie that's, I think, number 29 on AFI's top 100 movies of all time list. It is basically the original. Well, I mean, film noir is a term that was not like they didn't create this movie to call it a film noir. It's kind of like people needed a term for a certain type of film. And this is one of the first noir films. I've been meaning to see it forever, and I just haven't. I've heard so many good things, and I've just been wanting to see it and just haven't gotten the time, haven't sat down and have done it. So I'm very excited to check out Double Indemnity. I've heard very good things about this movie, and I get to watch it with you.
Let me give you a reason to watch that. I'm good at giving people reasons to do things. So I give you one. Vow to view. We vow to view each other's movies.
We do.
Even though we don't always like them.
Okay, now you're just quoting the theme song.
Exactly.
All right, guys. That's it for this week. That's all the time we have. We went way over this time. It was all that Twilight talk.
I know. It's all your adaptation.
Yeah. If you like this podcast, you can check it out and all the other shows we do over at doofmedia.com. Also, consider becoming a patron.
Oh, yes,
Doof
please.
Media.
Be a doof warrior.
Yes, you can go to patreon.com/doofmedia, and there's all kinds of great rewards at each level, perks and things you get. You can head out, get access to the Discord, where you can hang out with Elyse.
Hang out with me, please.
You've been slacking in your Discording lately.
I haven't been on Slack. I've only been on Discord. That was a bad joke.
No, I'm mad because it's good. I like it.
Oh, thanks.
I wish I had thought of it.
I'm so good. Was it really good?
It was good.
Oh, thanks.
It was very clever. It's really quick-witted, babe. I'm proud of you.
My brain at work sometimes.
All right, guys, we will be back next week to talk about two movies that neither of us have seen.
Hooray! I hope that you get to watch them and you can see them with us this week.
I hope so. Hey, Elyse.
Yep.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.